Sometimes you are lucky enough to bump into very special people at very special places and to have conversations that just change your life. I was privileged to bump into Pepe Colombo at Rural Lanas here in Punta del Este recently. And just there, we started off a conversation that took us from Johnny Walker whiskey through to agriculture, sustainability, meat, railways, England, tea, production, marriage, love, and all sorts of stories. And I couldn't help but invite him to this program. The very challenge today is going to be narrowing down the topics that we are going to be discussing. Pepe Colombo has a lifetime experience working at multinationals, including Diageo, introducing Johnny Walker as a brand to Latin America and making it grow. And to me, Diageo and Johnny Walker is also agri-food. And it's also building bridges between Europe and Latin America. But I'm afraid we're not here to discuss whiskey. Terribly sorry. We're here to discuss agriculture and in particular sustainability. So welcome, Pepe, to the program.
Thank you so much.
You now are a producer and you're a farmer. You have experience in breeding beef cattle in Uruguay. Mm-hmm. You have experience in crops, in extensive agriculture. Yeah. But although you have some tradition, some family tradition, that was at some point very new to you.
Yes.
How did it start, and what differences did you find between agriculture and ranching in Argentina and in Uruguay?
Okay. Well, my love for the country, my love for the criollo lifestyle comes from my father, who was born in a town in the Pampas where they were breeding cattle. But for family circumstances, he ended up in the city and married my mother, who was pretty much an intellectual, if you will. So they became urban. We went to school. We went to a British school. From there, I went to college, studied history and literature, and eventually became an advertising executive. Then I became a marketing executive, then sales and marketing general manager, and I ended up running Latin America for Cadbury Schweppes, and then Diageo, or United Distillers, as it was called then. So I have been working with English companies all of my life. I used to be the translator of ideas between what was going on in the Northern Hemisphere in terms of thinking and putting that in words that people who were working in our side of the teams could understand and produce successful programs. I did that for 30 plus years. At 55, I decided that maybe that was enough, and I had other things I wanted to do. So I became an executive coach so that I wouldn't give up all of my experience, and also bought a farm in Uruguay. Uruguay seemed to be more stable than Argentina in those days. And the truth is that it was my love of horses that prompted me to buy the land. And I ended up facing cattle breeding, of which I knew very little. And then agriculture, which was like an afterthought for me. And the agronomer I hired, a Uruguayan, said, Pepe, don't worry, you play with the horses and the cows. I'll make you rich by planting agriculture and crops. And he was right. Not that I became rich, but that the wealth of the farm was the agriculture that we developed together with him and other phenomenal people, Uruguayan, all of them.
Pepe, when you say cattle, what breeds did you have? Okay,
that's another interesting story. My mind was Angus. Because you go to the UK and you have a chain of Angus restaurants. Not Hereford, or not Chorlton, there was the Angus line of restaurants. When Burger King promotes once or twice a year, they go the Angus Week. And then, Angus was in my mind. So I went to the cattle fair in Montevideo that they have every year, and I went to the Angus booth. And there I started looking at the people there. and I found some of the people that I probably would not want to talk to. And then I found Guinovart, who is the husband of the long-time family breeders of Angus in Cabaña Bajuqua. So I sat with them and I started to hear what they had to say about Angus and how they did things. And I said, these are the guys I want to associate myself with. So I went to the following auction of bulls that they had every year, and I bought like 70% of the production that they had, because I wanted to start with the best genetics possible, with the best association. I said, I don't want to buy bulls from you. I want to buy your knowledge. I want you to help me understand how to do with your genetics the best we could. And that's how we started. Phenomenal. I mean, Uruguayans are like so open, so willing to help. I'm not saying we became friends, but they were. At one time, Maria called me one day and said, Pepe, I have like 200 mothers ready to give birth, and I don't know what to put them because we have a drought coming. And I said, send them here. That's the way we operated. And that was for like close to 20 years.
So personal relationships are key to do business in this region.
Yeah.
You probably found it out with the alcohol as well.
And also agriculture, the same thing. The people that made the team that we put together, they were not necessarily working for me, they were working with me. And I was providing what I knew, and they were providing their expertise, and we had phenomenal meetings with mate and anecdotes, and the meetings that should have lasted an hour lasted 4, and some of them with a barbecue on the grill, and what a life.
I know. That's
what a life.
100% River Plate.
Life goes in cycles of good things and not so good things. I, in my experience, had the fortune of being for close to 20 years living my best life ever. Consistent happiness, consistent good results, good productivity, people who worked, and they still call me, say, Pepe, how you doing? And it's been 5 years since I finished my episode of cattle breeding and agriculture.
So when you say agriculture, what crops did you?
It was, you did anything that you wanted to do, but the good or the bad crop was soybean. Mm-hmm. We made money or didn't with soybean. The rest were fillers. Because we adopted a very strict rotation policy, because we knew that it's not agriculture, it's land management. We're not talking about agriculture, we're talking about land management. And we needed to leave the land better than we found it. Okay. And that was exactly what we did. And also it happens to be profitable if you do things right.
And that brings us to the whole topic of sustainability as well. And you were mentioning to me the other day, I mean, before actually having this conversation, we probably had about 6-7 hours of talk, and we could have had, 100 easily. Mm. And you were saying to me that Pepe is from Argentina, although he considers himself probably more Uruguayan now, or I consider himself more of an honorary Uruguayan now. But when you came to this side of the river, Uruguay, and the River Plate, you came across a few surprises. So tell me, from a land point of view, from an agronomic point of view, tell us about that.
Well, Argentinians have a blessing and a curse at the same time. The blessing, as they have like 1 meter of horizon A, that's dark soil, fertile soil. Uruguayans have 20 centimeters, because the Uruguay River is not the continuation of the Pampas. Many people think that. Many Argentinians who came to Uruguay thought that by doing what they were doing in Argentina on that side of the Uruguay River, they would do well. They don't. Because unless you take care of those 25 centimeters, you are going to run into trouble rather quickly. In Argentina, in Entre Rios, just crossing the Uruguay River, you find a completely different set of land, water accessibility. We go 50 meters down, we get enough water to fill the bathtub. On the Entre Rios side, you have 300,000 liters of water per hour, because the Acuífero Guaraní is right there. We have a bit of the Acuífero, but it comes from Paraguay down to Argentina and Entre Rios. And in the Pampas, of course, but the Pampas are phenomenal. I don't think there is in the world any other meseta that can provide the fertility that the Pampas still provide today, after having been worked sometimes rather well, sometimes rather not so well. Same thing in Uruguay. In Uruguay, we were hurting the land by not rotating crops, because soybean is what gives you the margins, the money, the cash. But unless you take care of the land, you won't have that cash for a whole long time.
And you were saying to me as well, the 1-1 rule, 1-to-1 rule, and you were talking to me about heads of cattle and hectares of soybean.
Yes.
So how does that work?
Well, that was like, from my marketing days, I had like a mission and a vision that I promoted among the people who work in the farm. So here you had some gauchos who were faced with a strategic plan, vision statement, budget.
Code of conduct.
Code of conduct.
You introduced a code of conduct in the Uruguayan countryside. I mean, for people that are watching this is in the management innovation, is Diageo applied to the Uruguayan countryside? I'm sure people that are watching here are like shocked. It's very unusual. Back in the days, it must have been revolutionary.
We had business reviews, strategic reviews, productivity reviews, and we had objectives that we discussed, and then we were transmitting that to the people who worked at farm. And the agronomer once said, Pepe, you have to be careful because they don't understand what you're talking about. I said, they will. When the bonuses come at the end of the year and they are related to things that we did well, and the results are here, and we made our budget, and we overcame our budget, and we have some extra cash that is going to be distributed among us. Because I don't want to take all the money. I want to take all the pleasure of this organization, which was very small. And I had phenomenal guys. I mean, Nepo Sarabia, the accountant, he could have been finance director of any multinational that I ever worked for. But he stays in Paysandú and he runs small projects. And Nelson Diaz, the agronomer, another genius. Nelson is the guy who's talking to you on the fields, and he's not looking at you. He's looking down there. He's looking at the grass while he talks to you. He's interested in the grass. And then she says, oh, look at this. You see this? And he's trying to teach me what he knows. And I try to listen, but I don't really understand. I just, earn the right to be in that conversation.
Yes.
No?
And with the humility as well. I love when I go to the countryside and I'm with an agronomist, and rather than talking to me, they're just picking up soil and they're looking at the insects, and they're looking at the worms, and they're looking at the seeds, and they're like going, look what we got here. And then they're suddenly completely distracted from your conversation. But how about the 1-1 rule? So you were saying you grew your cattle head and your hectares as well.
I defined like a target, 1,000 hectares of agriculture, productive agriculture. We didn't have when we started. We arrived at that by working the land, and then 1,000 head of cattle in the same farm. So we had 1,000 and 1,000. That was like the motto, 1,000 y 1,000. And it was like a vision that we had to fulfill, and we actually did that. We arrived at that. We transformed a land that had been, when I get this American, what is he doing in this Rinconada? What is he going to do in this land? It was like an afterthought, that land. After we worked in it for like 4 or 5 years, said, hey, this Argentinian would not want to sell it, maybe? And that made us very proud. The transformation of land into a productive enterprise. That was, it was bought from me by I'm not going to say who, but it was a very important institution in Uruguay who are doing the next stage for the land, which is irrigation and the management of seeds in a different way, which is exactly what we would have done had we stayed. But that is a 10-year project, and I wanted to do other things.
And you said that the value of the land from the moment you bought it, which was almost a marginal land that nobody was paying any attention to, to the moment when you sold it.
10 times more.
10 times more.
10 times more.
And it took 15, 20 years of very careful management.
Close to 20 years.
20 years. So multiply by 10 the value of land, but that took an awful lot of work.
But that is true. That is true. But I was in corporate life and I was an executive coach and so on. I have a few rules. One of the golden rules is instant success takes 10 years of work. When you see something coming up and say, oh, where was this guy? Where was this company? They have been working for 10 years to get to where they are. And they have not been seen for 10 years, perhaps, or maybe little, but then suddenly they explode. There is always a bunch of work and a bunch of people doing hard work for a long time before they can claim success. No?
And one final question for you, because I think we need to round up. One thing that I think all Uruguayans admire from Argentinian producers that came over, particularly during the crisis here. Well, we had crisis on both sides, and we survive when we come and go, and there's a lot of flow between Argentina and Uruguay, also Brazil and Paraguay. Is your mentality is that Argentinians came here, particularly in agriculture, with a business mentality. This is a business, we run it as a business. Well, from what I have seen in the last 15 years, studying as an economist, the rural sector and the agricultural business, a lot of it here is tradition, is, as you were saying to me the other day, is how things have been done.
Yes.
It's all about the past, which is valuable, but when you got to compete in the world and you export 80 to 90% of your product and you're competing against New Zealand, against Ireland, against the US, against Brazil, you got to think like a business. And you really brought not just technology, but you brought a business mentality. What's your thought around that?
Attention to detail, not take things for granted, have a 10-year plan. And we know that during those 10 years, we're going to have problems like a serious drought that we did have. We had to go to the bank and ask for money, and that meeting took 15 minutes because we had done everything right. So they knew who we were, they knew how we worked, and it wasn't a problem. The institutions are here to help. The Argentinians know how to face adversity. They are trained in that.
Yes.
And they keep pushing and pushing until things come out. And they came with that can-do mentality to Uruguay, which had been blessed by cattle roaming in the Uruguayan prairies with water, aguadas, and all you had to do is sit down and look at them grow and breed and all of that. But this now is not like that. We have to change that. You have to get more technical. You have to get more aware of genetics, of food, seed technology, planting technology, harvesting technology. All of that is changing. And now you have drones that actually supervise what you're doing with your cattle. You have collars in your cattle that will tell you what they're doing, how they're doing, and if they have any obvious disease. All of that technology needs to be incorporated, which needs a change of mindset in the people who are working there. Technology is there, but it's useless unless you change your mindset.
And you were saying to me that sometimes, cattle or animal, and ranching generally in Uruguay, it's still done with the mentality of how things have been done, and that agriculture here is sometimes done with a cattle mentality. And we maybe need to run things a bit more like Diageo.
I am talking about 20 years ago when we started. I'm sure that a lot of progress has been made for the last 20 years. But yes, Argentinians brought agriculture to Uruguay. Uruguay was a cattle country. And then the improvement of the breeds with Angus, Hereford, and other new breeds that were coming, that was happening as I came in. But it was great because I could not distinguish the front from the end of a cow if you put it at a distance. I didn't know much about this. They taught me, and I learned with them. And it was phenomenal. Then the agriculture, yes, we all learned together. But there was a lot of Argentinian initiatives that came to Uruguay to develop a couple of million hectares of agriculture. That's all Uruguay has to offer. Beyond that, it's not really fertile land that you can truly work. And the other thing is that in Uruguay, almost every farm will be half agriculture, half cattle. And so you have to manage both. If you go to the Pampas, you have endless, and also in Brazil, endless surfaces of land that are only soybean.
Yeah.
And you know, I'm saying, what about rotation? We don't worry about the rotation, not for now. Maybe in 20 years we will.
And now they have cattle agriculture, and now they have forestry as well. So now,
yeah, I love forestry.
You love forestry. That's going to be a completely different chapter, I think. Before we close, Pepe, I would like to give you a very special present that I brought for you from Paraguay. Paraguay is also part of Mercosur, and this is a very special rum, which is produced by Residentas. I've just been to Asunción. You know a lot about distilled drinks, and this is actually comes from sugarcane, and it's not processed. It comes straight from the sugarcane, not melazas, but sugarcane, straight to you. This is actually aged 6 years in special containers that you will understand. They will remind you a lot of whiskey, and there's a very special history behind it that relates to our 4 countries. And I think it's a history that we should know about, but maybe we should use this to look forward to the future and look forward to building bridges between the 4 countries. So this is for
thank
you to thank you for your time.
Thank you. I don't know whether I will open this ever, but this is agriculture in a bottle.
Exactly. So
we used to say that about Scotch. Scotch is an agricultural product.
It's almost like a salad. Kind of. I think we can agree.
Yes, okay. Let's bring a bottle and we have some salad.
Okay. It's a promise. Thank you. Gracias, Pepe.
Thank you so very much.
A real pleasure. Thank you. Thank you. Well, what an edition of Feeding the World Mercosur Business News. A bit of whiskey, a bit of rum, and certainly a lot of cattle and agriculture. Just a perfect combination, just everything we want from somebody who knows an awful lot. I have loved it. I hope you have too.